What if you could build the perfect society? A city forged by the smartest minds in the universe. For the smartest minds in the universe. A place with no scarcity, no disease, and no one has to suffer. A shining monument to genius. This is the Citadel of Ricks. However, it's built on a lie. Because what happens when society is reduced to its barest form, guided only by Rick's logic? You get one of the most brutal and honest critiques of capitalism ever put to screen. This single episode of Rick and Morty, a story our main characters aren't even in, accidentally created a perfect simulation. A nightmare society where joy is a product, hope is a lie, the law is a weapon, and revolution is just a marketing campaign. So how did a city of geniuses build a trap? Even they couldn't escape. And what does capitalism have to do with it? Let's find out. Now, the most fascinating thing is that we as the viewers only get to see it as an accident. See, our Rick and Morty, the ones we actually follow, have nothing to do with it.
Citadel's dimensional drive, if he's gonna use it to blow the curve, we do not want to be here.
They donate a few bucks to the Citadel's reconstruction, make a joke, and then blast off for a carefree adventure in Atlantis. And by taking themselves off the board, they give us the perfect scientific setup. For one episode, the Citadel is left to its own devices, a closed system, and we can see a terrifying experiment in real time. We get to see what a society of Ricks and Mortys builds when nobody is watching, and it happens in the most hilarious way you can imagine by presenting us three extremely different stories. For now, our tour of this perfect capitalism critique begins where every society truly shows its colors, the factory floor. Welcome to the Simple Rick's Wafer Factory.
There's a Rick that held a factory hostage after murdering his boss and several co-workers.
The absolute bottom of the Citadel's ladder. Imagine doing the same exact thing every second of every day. That's the life of Factory Rick. He was a genius, capable of building wonders, but here his amazing brain was being wasted, pulling levers and watching green slop slide by. It's a job designed to make you forget you're even a person. Then one day, something different happens. A manager walks out onto the floor, a promotion is available, and for a split second, you can see it on Rick's face. A flicker of something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. A chance to get out, to be someone else. But the name they call isn't his. And in that instant, the tiny flicker of hope is gone, replaced by a fire. He just can't take it anymore. He smashes his station, takes out his boss, and grabs a corporate Rick as a hostage, screaming for a life he knows he'll never have. The standoff ends in a hail of gunfire, but not before we learn the factory's disgusting secret. The amazing flavor of Simple Rick's wafers comes from the real, harvested memories of a Rick kept in a dreamlike state. They're literally selling his happiness, one cookie at a time. And this factory right here is the perfect takedown of capitalism's darkest sides. First, there's a concept called alienation. It's a fancy word for a simple feeling, being completely disconnected from your work. Factory Rick wasn't creating anything. He was just part of a process that was actively destroying someone else. His job had no meaning, so his life had no meaning. Next, the episode shoves commodification in our faces. That's when you take something that shouldn't have a price tag and turn it into a product. In this case, it's the most twisted product imaginable. A father's love for his daughter baked into a wafer. Basically, the system found a way to put a barcode on a soul. And finally, this all leads to the system's most brutal rule. The worker is disposable. Factory Rick's entire life of misery, his desperate rebellion, and his violent death meant nothing to the company. To them, he wasn't a person. He was just a broken piece of equipment, swept up at the end of the shift and replaced the next day. The machine keeps running no matter who it crushes. But exploiting a worker's body is just step one. For a system to be truly unbreakable, it must first capture the mind. And on the Citadel, that process begins in the classroom. And that's how we end up at the Morty Academy, which is a school.
This is a great adventure.
This is a great adventure.
I love being your new Morty.
I love being your new farty.
That honestly feels more like a factory for obedience than an actual school. Unlike real schools, the posters on the wall don't show famous scientists or artists. They show loyal Mortys getting a pat on the head from their Rick. Here, young Mortys aren't taught to think for themselves. They're taught their place. The lesson of the day, every day, is that their highest purpose in life is to be a perfect, compliant sidekick. The Rick teacher drones on, not with a passion for education, but with the tired boredom of a prison guard. It's a system designed to create a generation that won't ever question their lot in life. But in every classroom, there's a rebel, a spiky-haired Morty who just can't accept it. He's the one kid who asks the questions no one else dares to. the one who sees the cracks in the story they're being sold. He tells his friends a secret, a legend of a wishing portal.
I say we go to the wishing portal. That's a myth. It's not a myth. My first Rick's fourth Morty knew a Rick whose Morty went there.
Where they can go to have their own dreams come true. A place where a Morty can finally be the star of his own life. It's a classic call to adventure, and they take it, escaping into the vents to find their destiny. For a brief time, they feel a sense of freedom, a shared brotherhood on their quest for a better life. Their journey is a hopeful one. They believe they are the heroes, the ones who will finally break the cycle. But when they arrive at the portal's location, the adventure comes to a crushing end. There is no magic, no escape.
None of those things are gonna happen, you know. Morty wishes never come true.
The wishing portal is the Citadel's central garbage dump. And this heartbreaking field trip is the episode's second major lesson, how a system controls its people, not just with force, but with ideas. First, the school itself shows how education can be used for indoctrination. The Academy's goal isn't to empower Mortys, it's to manage their expectations downwards. By teaching them that their only value comes from serving a Rick, the system guarantees a steady supply of cheap, obedient labor that will never demand more because they don't believe they deserve more. It's a classic tactic of control, create a workforce that polices its own ambitions. But the real genius is the wishing portal. It's a perfect, cruel metaphor for the myth of social mobility, the lie that anyone can succeed if they just try hard enough. This is one of the most powerful tools a rigged system has. It dangles a false hope that keeps everyone in line, chasing a dream that was never real. And this is why that lie is so evil. It takes the systemic problem of inequality and turns it into a personal failure. If you don't find the portal, it's your fault. You didn't believe hard enough. It keeps the oppressed from ever banding together and blaming the actual system, because they're too busy blaming themselves. When the spiky-haired Morty sees the truth, that the portal is just where the Citadel throws away its trash, including unwanted Mortys, he finally understands. The game is rigged. In a final, heartbreaking speech, he tells his friends there is no escape
Because I wish that would change. I wish anything about this life would change.
before throwing himself into the abyss. It's the ultimate act of protest against a system that offers no way out. When indoctrination fails and hope dies, a system needs a more direct method of control. It needs enforcers. And on the streets of the Citadel, the law isn't blind. It's just aiming down. On the streets of the Citadel, we meet a young idealistic Morty on his first day as a cop. He's full of hope, genuinely believing he can make a difference in a city rotting from the inside. He's immediately partnered with a veteran Rick cop who is everything he's not. Cynical, violent, and filled with a deep-seated hatred for Mortys, despite being a cop in a predominantly Morty neighborhood. However, the rookie's optimism doesn't last long. On their first patrol, he watches in horror as his partner shakes down local business owners, spews prejudice, and casually accepts bribes. The idealistic dream of so-called justice quickly dissolves into the grimy reality of his partner's lawless routine. But this isn't even the worst thing that happens on his first day, because the day climaxes in a tense meeting with a local kingpin, where the veteran Rick reveals the truth. He's a key player in the Citadel's criminal underworld.
Bubble, how'd it go with the Morty Town Locos? They had a little accident. They won't be causing any trouble anymore. Those were bad Mortys. Very bad Morty.
But the most shocking reveal isn't the corruption itself. It's the reason for it. The Rick cop admits the whole system is built to keep Mortys fighting each other, to ensure the underclass stays powerless. In the chaos that follows, the rookie Morty is forced to kill his own partner to survive. He's hailed as a hero for taking down a dirty cop, but the victory feels hollow. The chapter ends with the now traumatized Morty, alone in his car, staring at the bag of bribe money his partner had stashed. After a moment of hesitation, he takes it. The system has broken him. And just like that, the buddy cop movie becomes a political horror story, revealing the third crucial lesson on how this system maintains power. This storyline shows that institutions like the police are used to enforce the class structure. Their job isn't to protect everyone. It's to manage the poor and protect the interests of the rich and powerful Ricks. As the veteran Rick says, Morty-on-Morty crime is good for business. It keeps the oppressed distracted, fighting over scraps, ensuring they never look up and see who's really pulling the strings. More importantly, it shows that corruption is a feature, not a bug. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. The veteran Rick wasn't a bad apple. He was a perfect employee, doing exactly what the system required of him. The rookie Morty is faced with a terrible choice: stay moral and be eliminated, or become corrupt and survive. By taking the money, he proves the system's ultimate point. There is no room for morality here. To exist within the system is to become part of its rotten machinery. With the workers crushed, the youth controlled, and the law corrupted, the system seems complete. But what happens when a hero rises from the ashes? A leader who promises to burn it all down? This is where the Citadel's trap becomes its most brilliant and its most insidious.
Citadel's problem isn't homeless Mortys or outraged Ricks.
And so we arrive at the Citadel's grand political stage, where our final and most important story unfolds. After witnessing so much hopelessness, the episode offers a powerful, dangerous drug: hope. It comes in the form of a charismatic Morty running for president. He gets on stage and says everything the downtrodden masses have been desperate to hear.
I see it everywhere I go. I see it in our schools, where they teach Mortys we're all the same because they're threatened by what makes us unique.
He doesn't sound like other Mortys. He's confident, inspiring, and he speaks of a future where Ricks and Mortys are no longer divided by class. It's a message of unity, of healing, of creating a society that finally works for everyone. To prove he's serious, he fires his cynical Rick campaign manager on live television, a bold statement that he is not part of the old guard. He is one of them. For the average Morty working on the factory line or suffering on the streets, this is electrifying. It feels like a real movement is finally happening. Then comes the turning point that seals his destiny. During a speech, an assassin makes an attempt on his life.
Assassinating you! Okay.
He survives, and overnight, he is transformed. He is no longer just a candidate. He's a martyr, a hero who was willing to die for their cause. His popularity skyrockets, and his victory becomes a certainty. He wins the election in a landslide. Triumphant music swells as Mortys celebrate in the streets. It feels like a revolution, a new beginning earned at the ballot box. But the revolution was a lie. The hope was a weapon. In the quiet moments after his victory, the new President Morty is confronted by his former campaign manager, who holds a secret file. He'd been digging.
What's this?
It's secrets. What do you think it is? Look at how I'm dressed. Having taken aim at...
The file contains photos that reveal the horrifying truth. This inspiring leader is the original Evil Morty from a past adventure. His entire campaign, the message of hope, the promise of unity, the populist uprising, was a perfectly executed long-term plan to seize absolute power. He has the campaign manager and the secret council of Ricks who truly run the Citadel executed in the cold vacuum of space. He doesn't just join their system, he eliminates them and becomes its undisputed master. And here we get the final and most cynical lesson of the episode: how the system protects itself by absorbing and corrupting revolution. Evil Morty's rise is a masterclass in weaponizing populism. He expertly identified the enemy, the arrogant, powerful Ricks, and channeled all the genuine pain and anger of the Morty underclass against them. He used the language of the oppressed, not to free them, but to pave his own path to the throne. He turned their hope into his own personal ladder and kicked it away the second he got to the top. This is the ultimate illusion of change. The system that created the suffering is still perfectly intact. The factory workers are still being exploited, the students are still being lied to, and the cops are still corrupt. The only thing that's changed is the face at the very top. The revolution didn't destroy the pyramid of power. It just put a new, more ruthless pharaoh in charge. The Citadel didn't get a savior. It got a much smarter monster. So when you put it all together, what have we actually seen? The exploited worker whose soul is literally the product. The hopeless youth who are taught that the only escape is a lie. The corrupt cop who enforces a system that runs on their misery. And the fake revolutionary who uses their pain to become a king. Each story wasn't just a dark tale. It was a different angle of the same horrifying machine. The Citadel of Ricks is what you get when you let the core logic of capitalism run to its absolute, unrestricted conclusion. It proves that even a society of geniuses will inevitably create a system of brutal exploitation when the goal is simply profit and power. The system itself is the villain, and it's a monster that no single genius can outsmart. And that's the final, chilling takeaway. The most terrifying part of the Citadel isn't that it's some distant sci-fi dystopia. It's how much of it, if we're being honest, we recognize in our own world. But the Citadel wasn't the only time Rick and Morty held a dark mirror up to our society. To see how the show tackled the absurdity of heist movies, you have to watch this video next.